I really feel I need to talk about the situation with the Unity game engine. Now, this isn't the type of topic I normally talk about on this channel, but I think we can all agree whether or not you actually play indie games, they are all very important to the industry, and the changes with Unity are about to affect indie developers pretty heavily. The problem then is that Unity now want to charge developers every time a player installs one of their games. Now, on the screen right here, we can see exactly how this is going to work according to Unity. Games qualify for the Unity runtime fee, that's the installed fee, after two criteria have been met. 1. The game has passed a minimum revenue threshold in the last 12 months, and 2. The game has passed a minimum lifetime install count. We set high revenue and game install thresholds to avoid impacting those who have yet to find a scale. In other words, meaning it shouldn't affect people who haven't yet found success, as Unity are actually targeting people who have found success. So yeah, they want to avoid impacting those who have yet to find scale, meaning that they don't need to pay the fee until they have reached significant success. So as I said, they want to charge people for that success. The way it's going to work, people using the Unity Personal or Unity Plus licenses, those who have made $200,000 or more in the last 12 months and have at least 200,000 lifetime installs, Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise, those who have made $1 million or more in the last 12 months and have at least 1 million lifetime installs. Now, there's some very important words in here to clarify. They are saying that people who have made X amount of money, so those studios that have made $200,000, for example. Now, making $200,000 per year certainly sounds like a lot of money. In fact, it is a lot of money. But keep in mind that they're talking about revenue here, not profit. So that's the total amount of income that the game has made so far. And for example, if you were to publish a game on Steam and you had a revenue of $200,000 for that game, then Steam would take a 30% cut. They'd take $60,000 of that, leaving you $140,000. If you've got a publisher, they will want to take a cut of that $140,000, leaving you even less. And then in come Unity, and they also now want a cut of that pie. And then with what's left over, studios need to cover development costs, wages, as well as other expenses. So Unity really seem to be doing nothing but causing trouble with this. Very quickly then, let's have a look at exactly what the pricing problem is. We can see here that for the most part, a lot of developers are going to find that they're being charged 20 pence or 20 cents per install of their game. This scales. The more copies of the game you distribute, the cheaper your fee will be, and it actually drops down to just 2 cents per install. But even still, 1 cent per install. But even still, this is going to dramatically increase the operating costs for many of these studios. Now, one thing that has come up is how do Unity track these installs? It turns out that tracking them isn't at all easy, and at the moment Unity are not convinced that they won't be able to track illegal pirated copy installs or anything similar to that, which means that developers could kind of fraudulently be attacked by bad actors trying to ramp up the costs that the developers have to pay. Now, Unity has rolled back one of the issues here. They did initially say that they would charge for every single install of the game, so if a user downloads a game, uninstalls it, and installs it again, the developer would get charged twice. Unity have now rolled that back and say that would only be charged for the initial installation. But even still, I feel that that's not the best position or the best rollback. And another note here, obviously, we can see the comparison that even with these massive installed fees that Unity users are going to face, how does that compare to Unreal Engine? Well, we can see that Unreal, Epic, they have a royalty waived on the first $1 million. After that, they want 5% on gross revenue. And that goes back to 0% after the title crosses less than $10,000 per calendar quarter. Now, as you might imagine, there's been quite a reaction towards this, and it has been a substantial reaction. If we head on over to Twitter, we can see some of what's going on. And we'll start with this person right here, who was one of the project leads, one of the work leads at Unity. They've said, as a Unity employee until this morning, I assure you we fought like hell against this, brought up all the points everyone else has, were told answers would come in, and then the announcement went out without warning. Those of us who care are out, more resignations are coming at the end of the week. So as we see all too often, it seems that this is a case of management or even the executives making decisions without really talking through the issues with the company at large. And on the surface of it, on the face of it, it kind of comes across as though the executives might be a little bit out of touch. But of course, they do have their own concerns to deal with, such as whether or not their company is profitable. At any rate, we can see here the developer studio. There's been a whole bunch of these. This is just one example amongst absolutely dozens. This is Megacrit, the studio, the developers of Slay the Spire. They say the Megacrit team has been hard at work these 2+ years on a new game, but unlike with Slay the Spire, the engine we have been developing in is Unity. The retroactive pricing structure of the runtime fees is not only harmful in a myriad of ways to developers, especially indies, it is also a violation of trust. We believe Unity is fully aware of this, seeing as they have gone so far as to remove their terms of service from GitHub. Despite the immense amount of time and effort our team has already poured into development on our new title, we will be migrating to a new engine unless the changes are completely reverted and the terms of service protections are put back in place. And this really does hit a very important point, doesn't it? If you're working with a company like Unity using their software, for them to suddenly completely change the terms of service, their very business model on you midway through whatever you're working on, well, this is indeed a breach of trust. Now, there's some talk that, some hope that just maybe Unity will roll back these changes and realise their mistake, the error of their ways, and decide not to go ahead with this. But even if they do, a company making a decision like this, such a huge dramatic shift in their business model, well, who's to say they won't do it again? And I can totally understand if a lot of developers decide to walk away from Unity. This could perhaps even be the downfall of Unity. Now, Slay the Spire is by no means a small indie title, so this very likely would affect them. We can see over on Steam the game is very well received, overwhelmingly positive recent reviews, and a total of 117,000 reviews over the course of the game's life, and a score of 97%. Again, overwhelmingly positive. So yeah, this is a deck guild building game and very much loved by the looks of it. Quite naturally, other developers have come out in support of all of this, very much against Unity. This is Creamer here. This is the studio behind the Pokemon styled game Temtem, another very popular game. And they too, well, basically questioning Unity's logic here. Ever since Unity went public with the change in leadership under their new CEO, it has been a downhill journey. Each announcement seems to be worse than the previous one, while the engine itself has been lacking in both polish and capabilities. So a very damning statement there. And again, these are pointing to the terms of service changes. Yeah, not looking good. Now, moving on to another very popular indie game, Cult of the Lamb. This has had some recent success on the Switch, of course. The developers behind this studio are threatening to remove the game. They remove it from sale because they don't want to be targeted by what they consider to be these extremely unfair prices. That means they would remove the game from, I guess, the Steam store and pretty much anywhere else it can be, so that they don't have to pay any Unity prices, any Unity fees. And I can totally understand where these people are coming from. This isn't a good look for Unity at all. Now moving on to another game here, this time over on Reddit, and it's not entirely clear what this game is about, but it is a mobile game. The studio behind the game here is saying that the game is a kids game. It doesn't have advertising in the game because they don't want to target kids with advertising, but it does have in-app purchases, and they clarify further down by what they mean for in-app purchases is that the person can download the game for free, and if they want to do it, if they like the game, they can make a one-off purchase and get the premium version of the game. So it seems that this particular title is not full of microtransactions. Nonetheless, due to the sheer volume of the game that's going to be downloaded, Unity would take 108% of this particular game's gross revenue. So, assume this game is being distributed on the Google Play Store, for example. Google would take a cut of that gross revenue themselves. If they've got a publisher, the publisher would also take a cut of the revenue. Unity, then they don't care. They just want the entire revenue, regardless of the cost. So you'd have to pay all of your money to Unity, plus then some, an additional fee to Google and Apple iOS, I suppose, and maybe your publisher as well. So that would leave you entirely in debt just for trying to distribute a game. And finally, let's have a look at one other comment here. Saying that this change only affects the top 10% of Unity users sounds great until you realise they're including all of the hobbyists and students in their user total. And 10% of Unity users is actually almost everyone using Unity professionally. A ton of people are going to be affected by this. So yeah, this is a pretty unusual video for my channel, but I also feel it is a super important topic and something that needs to be discussed as far as possible and as wide as possible. Hopefully, Unity can realise the error of their ways and potentially roll this all back or decide not to go ahead with it. Now, if Unity as a business do have concerns in terms of the amount of profitability they're having, then perhaps they should also come out and clarify that situation as well. Do let me know then your thoughts and feelings on all of this in the comment section below. Do you feel that Unity are really overstepping the mark here and are charging too much? Or do you feel that indie studios should just suck it up and pay the fees regardless? Let me know what you think below. Personally, I think you've gathered, I think this is a major issue, and Unity have made a big mistake here, and one which they're perhaps going to really struggle to recover from. At any rate, that brings us to the end of this video. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys and girls next time.